What's up, guys? This is Hammer here again, back with another video. And today I'm going to be talking about South Africa because it looks like South Africa may be finally getting their black treatment or the African treatment. And we're going to cover that into this video. Before we get into that, let's get into our intro. So, before I get into the topic of today, right, let's just provide some context when it comes to the nation of South Africa, right? South Africa, of course, a country that is largely known to the history of apartheid, in which the black indigenous majority was put under subjugation by the white minority, right? White settlers who came from Europe. And then, of course, after apartheid ended, Mandela, he chose a different path compared to Mugabe. Same Mugabe, his entire thing was about getting justice for black people in Zimbabwe, right? It was about giving the land back to the black Zimbabweans. But Mandela, when he took over, he didn't provide justice. His whole thing was, oh, we're just gonna try and move on, forgive, and just reconcile with the whites there. The problem is that because you guys never addressed the wrongs that were done by the white South Africans, because you guys never provided justice to black South Africans, what you essentially have is that South Africa is a country that is essentially ruled by a white buffer class. I've had this conversation before. Although you have a black face like the ANC, EFF, and others, when you actually pull back the curtains, what you see is that the majority of the wealth within that country is still controlled by the whites. What you said, the majority of the politics, the systems, is still controlled by the whites, even though they make up only what 8 to 9% of the country. But you don't see that in Zimbabwe, though. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up because remember, guys, Zimbabwe and South Africa had a similar history, right? Zimbabwe used to be Rhodesia with a white minority rule. South Africa was under apartheid with a white minority rule. So why is it that Zimbabwe doesn't have a white buffer class that controls the country, but South Africa does? Well, the answer is very simple. Mugabe chose justice for his people. Mugabe chose to check the whites there, which is the reason why Zimbabwe. Look, the only reason why Zimbabwe is being treated the way it's treated is because they did not kowtow to the white minority the way black South Africans did. And in my opinion, it benefited them in the long run because look, although they got the hit initially, what you're starting to see that Zimbabwe is slowly balancing back, they're slowly building the economy up, right? They're making deals with China, Russia, and on top of that, they are now returning to being the breadbasket of Africa. But here's the difference: they're doing this under black control, right? As they're coming up, as they're returning to being a breadbasket, as they're making deals with China, as they're bouncing back, they're doing it under black control. There's no longer a white buffer class that's controlled from behind the scenes. Okay? There's a reason why when you go to the Zimbabwean parliament, you're not going to see white folks for the most part. But if you go to the South African parliament, white people everywhere. Okay? And that's the reason why they have gone after Zimbabwe they would have gone after, but then they'll give South Africans a pat because what? Because they understand, look, Zimbabweans, they actually brought just the black people there, right? They kicked the whites out for the most part, right? And whites punished them, but Zimbabweans are bouncing back. And as a center of power moves from the west towards the east, Zimbabweans, black Zimbabweans tend to benefit, largely because of the ties they have with Russia and the Chinese, right? And this time, whites in the west can't dictate to them anymore, right? Because they've been able to stand on 2 feet, right? They're not able to quote unquote bully Zimbabwe or bulldoze them the way they can do us in Africa. Just recently, right, the president of Zimbabwe was invited to the coronation of King Charles, and of course, many whites were angry about it. I said, look, it makes sense. The reason why he was invited because they came to realize, look, Mugabe chose justice for his people. He stood strong for the most part. They put sanctions and it's still strong. And now that the Western Europeans and the whites are realizing that hey, the power is going towards the east, and Zimbabweans are bouncing back, and the closer and closer we get to the future, they're not going to need the West as much economically. They realize, okay, they're not good. Like they're not like in the future, and as time goes on, right? They're not gonna be able to go as Zimbabwe the way that they've been going at, right? And so, because of this, they have no choice but to kind of, meet them halfway. And of course, the president of Zimbabwe has been trying to kind of, get things back on track. But he's made it very clear that the justice that Mugabe did for Black Zimbabweans, that will stay in place. Now, when you understand that, then you can understand the situation that happens in Africa, right? South Africa, the Black South Africans never did justice, right? They essentially just forgave and moved forward, which is the reason why the whites there still have control. And one thing I've always said that, look, if Black South Africans want to provide justice for themselves, if Black South Africans want to get rid of the white buffer class and no longer be in this subservient position, they're going to have to spill blood. That's the reality. You're going to have to go to pain. You're going to have to go through pain. There's going to have to be violence. There's going to have to be bloodshed. Mugabe understood this. They believe that they think they can get rid of the white buffer class without there being any bloodshed or there being any violence. That's not going to work. And the fundamental issue with you being in this situation is that you're essentially being held hostage. Meaning that as soon as the white buffer class there or white Europeans are no longer settled with you, right? They can always pull the covers and they can always undermine you. They can always pull the plug. And you will be in a worse position. Let's be honest, okay? Most of the wealth that lies within South Africa belongs to the whites. The whites control the majority of the wealth in that country. And so if the white buffer class there, the white minority there, as well as the West, if they decide to pull the plug in South Africa, Black South Africans will become even poorer than anyone else. In fact, they will become poorer than even Zimbabweans because the wealth they had was artificial. It doesn't belong to them. And so what I've been warning Black South Africa, look, you need to deal with this white buffer guy because you're putting yourself in a bad position. Because soon as the West and the whites there turn on you, you're gonna suffer the most. You're gonna be in the worst position. And now it looks like this may actually be happening. So for those who may not know, the ambassador of the U.S. ambassador to South Africa, right? He came out and made allegations that South Africa essentially has been providing weapons to Russia. And of course, this is huge because the implication here is that this could be used as justification for America, the West, to censure South Africa, right? And so, of course, Ramaphosa and the ANC have been running around saying, oh, we're investigating it. They just recently came back and said that there's no evidence. Apparently, they're saying that the ambassador apologized. We have no idea, right? But fundamentally, this was an operation. Okay? The United States sent out this ambassador to make this allegation as a warning to you that, hey, we still control South Africa. The whites still control that country, and we can always pull the plug. And it's not going to be the same as Zimbabwe. See, when they went as Zimbabwe, because Zimbabwe got rid of the white buffer class, they were able to stand on their feet, right? It was painful, but they could stand. But in South Africa, because the white buffer class is in place, if they sanction you and go after you, you guys will not be able to stand on your feet. They will destroy you guys. And the only protection you will have is the bricks. Let's be honest here. But anyway, let's go into the video.
Agri Western Cape says it's extremely concerned about the devastating economic effects of the fallout between South Africa and the United States of America. This comes after allegations made by the U.S. Ambassador Ruben Brigetti claiming that South Africa has supplied war weapons and ammunition to Russia. South Africa was the largest trading partner to the U.S. under the African Growth and Opportunity Act in 2021. Now, the Western Cape provincial government says the South African national government has jeopardized close to 77% of foreign direct investment stock in South Africa. ENC senior reporter Aisha Ismail is joining us now live from our Cape Town studios to tell us more about what's coming out of the mother city about this situation. Good afternoon, Aisha. Welcome to today. Thanks for your time. Now, this row between South Africa and the U.S. is having businesses across the board very worried.
That is indeed so, Dan, and one could argue that this is a political fallout or a diplomatic fallout. But at the end of the day, businesses are saying that it is going to affect investment at a time when South Africa needs it most, and they are very concerned about the economy. So when I spoke to Agri Western Cape today, the CEO was telling me that this agreement, which is called the African Growth and Opportunity Agreement.
Yeah, and just to clarify, look, people need to understand, right? Because earlier on in the video, it talked about how 77% of investment in South Africa comes to what, the US, UK, and let me pull this back. Yeah, like the US, UK, EU country was sending of foreign investment. So this is something I've been telling Black South Africa. Look, the only reason why South Africa is even the top 10 is because you guys are being subsidized by white European and the white collective. That's the only, like, the blacks there don't have any power or wealth. It's not like Nigeria or Kenya or Uganda where, you know, they actually control the economics in that country, right? Like the wealth they have there belongs to the blacks. That's not what's happening in South Africa. In South Africa, all of the wealth and the investment you guys get is largely coming from the West. Like the whites are the ones who control it. And I said that you guys are actually, in my opinion, the biggest paper tiger. Because if the West decides to really go after you, you will have the most to lose. Because you had so little to begin with. All the wealth you had never really belonged to you. Right? But see, whenever I say this, you know, Black South Africans get triggered. Oh my God, that's not true. And it's like, stop this. Okay? Now, do I believe that you know, South Africa provided weapons to Russia? I'm not sure. Personally, I think the answer is yes. I think that they possibly did. But at the same time, it doesn't matter, right? Because South Africa understands that if everyone were to conclude they did it, this will result in Western sanctions. And so now they're trying to, you know, save face, right? But here's the issue. Even if you're able to prove that you did not drop the sell the weapons to Russia, what they're doing right now, South Africa, is once again, they're giving you a warning. They're letting you know that, hey, the whites control that country. We control that country. You don't. And at any moment, we can pull the plug on you. Now, they can go at Zimbabwe. They can go at other black countries. But because those black countries don't have a white buffer class, they can at least stand on their own 2 feet. But for you, because you have a white buffer class there, they can easily pull the rug and fuck you over. So I hope that Black South Africans are getting a wake-up call here that, hey, they're letting you know that all of the stuff, all of the economic wealth and prosperity that the whites have given you can be taken away. Okay? But you know what? My fear is that Black South Africans are still not going to get it. They're still going to cape for the whites. They're still going to talk about reconciliation. They're still going to be hugging white South Africans. They're still going to be essentially a country ran by a white buffer class. And it's like, yeah, keep doing that. But look, if you guys don't deal with this white buffer class controlling your country, if you guys stop being essentially a proxy for the West, if you guys don't stop being a European colony, in the future, it's going to backfire. And you're going to pay the price. And then all of the black African states that you guys love to you know, quote unquote, attack or look away, you're going to start asking for help. Remember, the United States and Western Europeans, they backed the apartheid regime. It was the Soviets, the Chinese, and black African states that were supporting the ANC. It wasn't until around the end of it wasn't until the end that the United States flipped. So don't think for a second, Black South Africans, don't think for a second, Black South Africans, that the West won't turn around and back the whites. Don't be that naive. But anyway, I'm gonna leave it off there. You know, hopefully, Black South Africans, hopefully this is a wake-up call so they can deal with the white buffer class. But to be honest, I know they won't do anything. They're gonna sit there and allow the whites to keep. They're gonna sit there and allow the whites to keep raping them in that country. But with that being said, y'all, thank you for watching the video. Let me know in the chat what you guys think about this. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hammer out.